All right, so today we're diving deep into uh, one of D&D's classic
Oh,
classes.
fighter.
Oh, you know it, the fighter.
Yep.
Now we're going to be using the D&D Starter Set Rulebook as our guide today.
Excellent choice.
So if you're a beginner, this is like having a roadmap for building your very first hero.
Absolutely.
We're going to focus on first-level abilities to give you a solid foundation. Think Second Wind, fighting styles.
Yeah, the core essentials.
Exactly. And we'll even touch on some intriguing racial traits like Mask of the Wild.
Ooh, that one's fun.
Sounds mysterious, right?
For sure.
So let's start with the basics. Every D&D character is built upon 6 abilities.
Strength, dexterity, constitution,
Yeah,
intelligence, wisdom, and charisma.
right.
Those are your building blocks.
They represent your character's potential in different areas, like a fighter with high strength.
Ooh, they're going to hit hard.
Yeah, they're going to pack a
Yeah,
punch.
for sure.
Well, a fighter with high dexterity might be more nimble and agile, dodging those incoming attacks.
Exactly. Much harder to hit.
Right, so let's look at our sample fighter character sheet here. I see a strength score of 17, which gives them a +3 modifier.
Very strong indeed.
That's a hefty bonus.
Yeah.
That means they're adding +3 to any strength-related rolls, like swinging a sword.
And with a +3 dexterity modifier as well,
Oh, wow.
that's a fighter who can move.
Yeah, a true force to be reckoned with. Now, what about this proficiency bonus? I see it's +2 at first level. What exactly does that get added to?
So proficiency bonus represents your character's expertise.
Okay.
It gets added to the things they're good at, like attacking with certain weapons or making specific saving throws.
So it's like a bonus for being skilled in your chosen field.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. So let's talk combat. How does a fight actually play out in D&D?
All right, picture this. Your fighter is in a tavern, tension rising. Suddenly a brawl breaks out.
Oh, no.
Everyone rolls for initiative, determining the order of actions. The higher the roll, the faster you act.
Okay, so it's all about who gets the first strike?
Right, and then each character takes their turn, moving, taking actions, maybe even a bonus action if they have one.
I see. So you can react even when it's not your turn.
Yes, with reactions. For example, if an enemy tries to flee past your fighter, your fighter can use their reaction to make an opportunity attack and try to stop them.
So you're always on your toes, ready to respond to anything.
Absolutely, every moment counts in combat.
Okay, so what kind of actions can our fighter take on their turn?
Well, one of the most common actions is the attack action, where you try to hit something with your weapon.
Straightforward enough.
But fighters have a special trick up their sleeve, Second Wind.
Oh, yeah, I see that here on the character sheet.
It's like a surge of adrenaline, letting the fighter regain hit points during combat as a bonus action.
And a burst of energy to keep them going.
Right. It can be a lifesaver in a tough spot.
Absolutely. And speaking of fighting, our fighter here has chosen the archery fighting style.
A great choice for a ranged fighter.
It gives them a +2 bonus to attack rolls with ranged weapons.
So they're even more accurate with their longbow.
I can already picture them peppering enemies with arrows from afar.
Precisely. But they're not limited to just ranged combat. They also have a great sword for close encounters,
Ooh, two-handed and powerful, I see.
dealing a hefty amount of damage.
I see it here, 2d6 slashing damage. That could be devastating.
Absolutely. One swing can take down multiple enemies.
Wow. And for ranged attacks, they have their trusty longbow.
Yeah, dealing 1d8 piercing damage.
Plus, that extra +2 bonus from the archery fighting style makes them a real threat from a distance.
A versatile warrior indeed.
They are. Now, we haven't even talked about those racial traits yet. I'm particularly intrigued by Mask of the Wild.
Ah, yes. That one allows the fighter to attempt to hide even when they're only lightly obscured, like behind a tree or in dim light.
So they don't need to be completely hidden to try and be stealthy.
Right. It gives them more opportunities to surprise their enemies.
That's incredibly useful for ambushes or flanking maneuvers.
Exactly. A well-placed fighter with Mask the Wild can really turn the tide of battle.
This fighter is already shaping up to be quite formidable.
Oh, they're just getting started.
Right. But let's take a closer look at their racial traits. What else can we glean from those?
Well, they have dark vision, which means they can see in dim light as if it were bright light.
That suggests they might be an elf or a half-elf.
Makes sense. Perfect for navigating those dark dungeons.
And Fey Ancestry.
Ah, touch of magic there. They have advantage on saving throws against being charmed and immunity to magical sleep.
So they're resistant to enchantments and can't be magically put to sleep. Very handy when dealing with fairies or hags.
Very true. And lastly, trance.
Instead of sleeping, they enter a meditative state for 4 hours to gain the same benefits.
A more mystical approach to rest.
It really adds to their mystique. So we've got strong, agile fighter with a touch of the Feywild about them.
A fascinating combination.
It is, and with Mask of the Wild, they can be a real wild card on the battlefield.
Absolutely. They can adapt to different situations, using stealth and strategy to their advantage.
This is just scratching the surface of what a fighter can do, though, right?
Definitely. We've only just begun to explore their potential.
There's so much more to uncover about their abilities and how to use them effectively in combat.
And we'll dive into all of that in our next segment.
Okay, so before we get into the nitty-gritty of combat tactics,
Sure.
let's take a moment to let all this information sink in, because there's a lot to process here.
Absolutely. It's a lot to absorb.
It is, but that's what makes D&D so fascinating.
Right. There's always something new to learn.
Exactly, and we're just getting started with this amazing fighter.
On to the next adventure.
I can't wait.
Okay, so we've built our fighter, we've got their stats.
Right, we've got their abilities.
Now let's see them in action. Let's talk tactics.
Yeah, let's get down to the nitty-gritty. How can we make this fighter shine on the battlefield?
All right, so remember, Mask of the Wild.
Yeah, their ability to hide even when they're not completely obscured.
That opens up some really cool options, especially in a dungeon setting. Imagine it's dark, torches flicker.
Spooky.
Our fighter uses their dark vision to see clearly, and then, bam, they use Mask of the Wild to vanish into the shadows.
Wow, like a ninja.
They could be right next to an enemy, ready to strike.
That's a scary thought.
Or they could position themselves perfectly for a flanking maneuver, giving their allies an advantage.
It's like they're playing a game of cat and mouse with their opponents.
And remember their archery fighting style.
Yeah, that +2 bonus to hit with ranged weapons.
Combine that with Mask of the Wild, and they become a nightmare for their enemies. They pop out, fire an arrow, and disappear again before anyone can react.
That sounds incredibly frustrating to fight against.
Definitely keeps their opponents on edge. But what if they get cornered? What happens when things get up close and personal?
Yeah, that great sword looks pretty intimidating.
It is, and that's where their strength and dexterity really come into play.
Right, they have a +3 modifier for both.
With a great sword, they can swing hard, dealing massive damage. But they're not just a brute force.
No, they've got that agility too.
They can dodge attacks, weave through enemies, and strike with precision.
And if they take a hit, they can always use their second wind to regain some hit points.
It's a crucial ability for any frontline fighter, keeps them in the fight longer.
Okay, so we've covered stealth, ranged combat, melee combat.
Movement is important too.
Oh yeah, positioning yourself on the battlefield is key.
Exactly. Think about how they can use their movement to their advantage. Move in, attack, then reposition to a more strategic location, maybe behind cover or flanking another enemy.
They're not just standing still and trading blows.
Nope, they're constantly moving, thinking ahead, controlling the flow of battle.
This makes me think about Mask of the Wild in a defensive way too.
Oh, how so?
They could use it to disengage from combat, get out of a sticky situation, or protect a wounded ally by drawing the enemy's attention.
It's all about thinking outside the box, being creative and adapting to the situation.
Yeah, using your environment and your abilities to your advantage.
D&D isn't just about rolling dice, it's about using your imagination.
It's about making those choices that turn a fight into a story.
And that's what makes it so engaging.
Absolutely. So we've got combat tactics, but what about role-playing?
Ah, yes. How does this fighter exist in the world?
What kind of personality do they have?
Well, they have that Fey ancestry.
Right, that connection to the Feywild.
Maybe they have a bit of a mischievous streak, a twinkle in their eye.
Or maybe they're more stoic and reserved, focused on their duty as a protector.
Could be. The player gets to decide.
It's like they're building a real person, not just a character sheet.
And their journey's just beginning. As they gain experience,
Right, as they level up,
they'll gain new abilities, they'll face tougher challenges.
their story will unfold.
And their trance ability, that adds another layer,
Instead of sleeping, they meditate.
while the rest of the party is sleeping.
Could they be using that time to scout ahead, commune with nature spirits?
Maybe they have visions, receive cryptic messages.
Ooh, that's cool.
It adds a touch of mystery to their character.
I love it. It's like they have a secret life that their companions don't even know about.
Adds depth, intrigue.
It really does. You know, we could talk about this fighter all day.
We could.
There's so much to explore,
But the best part is,
Yeah.
it's up to the player to bring them to life.
to make those choices, to tell their story.
And that's the magic of D&D,
It's a shared experience, a collaborative story,
where everyone contributes.
and it's never the same twice.
Never.
Okay, so we've talked about combat tactics, role-playing, and the unique aspects of our fighter.
What else can we learn from this deep dive? Well, one thing that stands out to me is the power of choice.
Yeah, customization.
Even within the fighter class, there are so many different paths you can take.
So many ways to build your character.
You can focus on strength, agility, stealth, or a combination of all three.
You can tailor them to your playstyle.
And the choices you make will shape not only their abilities in combat, right,
but also their personality, their motivations, their role in the world.
It's not just about making them powerful, it's about making them interesting.
And making them your own.
That's what makes D&D so special.
It's a game where you can truly express yourself.
And create something unique.
And have a lot of fun along the way.
Right. That's the most important part.
Absolutely. This deep dive has been incredible.
I've learned so much about the fighter class.
And we've only just scratched the surface.
There's always more to discover in D&D.
Always.
But before we wrap up,
sure.
Remember that image of our fighter in trance communing with nature spirits.
Wow.
What if those spirits weren't as friendly as we think?
Oh, interesting.
What if they're tricksters? Or worse?
That adds a whole new dimension.
What if the fighter is receiving guidance from a source that isn't what it seems?
Could be dangerous.
It could lead to some really interesting conflicts and storylines.
It shows how even simple choices,
like how you choose to rest,
can have unintended consequences. That's the beauty of D&D, right?
The unexpected is always around the corner.
Your choices matter. They shape the story.
And you never know what might happen next.
That's what keeps us coming back for more.
It's the thrill of the unknown.
You know, it's amazing how much depth we found just by looking at this one fighter.
Yeah, it really shows how much you can do with even a seemingly simple class.
Right. And it all comes down to those choices, those little details that bring the character to life.
Like their Fey ancestry, their Mask of the Wild, even their trance ability. It all adds up to something really special.
It challenges those preconceived notions of what a fighter can be.
For sure, this isn't just some muscle-bound brute swinging a sword.
No, this is a cunning warrior, a stealthy hunter, maybe even a bit of a mystic.
Imagine someone underestimating them, thinking they're just a simple soldier.
Right, and then bam, they vanish into the shadows, reappear behind their enemy, and strike with deadly precision.
Nobody expects the fighter to be the sneaky one.
I know. It's like they're playing a different game entirely.
And those quiet moments when they're in trance while everyone else is asleep, who knows what they're experiencing?
What secrets are they uncovering? What whispers are they hearing from the spirits of the wild?
It's all part of their story, their connection to something bigger than themselves.
And that's what makes D&D so compelling, right?
Absolutely. It's more than just rolling dice and fighting monsters.
It's about creating a world together, weaving stories, and discovering who these characters truly are.
And this fighter, they could be anything you want them to be.
A protector, a champion, a silent guardian, a force of nature.
The possibilities are endless.
So if you're out there listening to this,
yeah,
and you've ever been curious about D&D,
give it a try.
You might just find yourself lost in a world of adventure.
Creating stories you never thought possible.
And maybe, just maybe, you'll discover the hero within yourself.
Until next time, may your adventures be legendary.